coming back home is the central theme of not only spirituality, not only meditation, in fact, of all religions, of all great scriptures, before they were altered and manipulated and misunderstood. If you go to the source of any religion, there will be a story of returning home. There is not a single religion without this story. And there are ways of returning home. But each religion, depending on how they have understood this story, they have their own interpretation of it. Sometimes the interpretation is close enough for you to interpret. For example, the Buddhist interpretation of enlightenment. These are the methods: the right speech, right action, right way of turning inward can help you to return home. And in some cases, the language might be a little more difficult to understand. For example, the Christian interpretation of returning back home. There is no language of returning back home. Although Jesus uses returning back home again and again, but the biblical interpretation is of going somewhere else, going to heaven, attaining to something outside of you, performing right actions, doing right things, so that you can go somewhere. It's a total misinterpretation of returning home. Jesus said, become like children. You cannot enter the kingdom of heaven the way you are. You have to become like a child. You have to become simple. What is he talking about? Just the returning to the source. The Jivatma wanting to become one with the Paramatma. In fact, the separation is not even real. At the depths of your being, you are still the universal soul. You are still the Paramatma. You are still the sky, but your sky is invisible now. Every time you look up, you only see clouds. You see lightning, you see thunder. And then you wonder, where is the sky? The sky is everywhere. The sky is not a fixed thing. It's not a place. Sky is not blue color. Sky is just empty space, where there are no clouds, where there is no lightning, no thunder. What remains is the sky. Do you have to go somewhere to experience the sky? No. You just have to drop the concept that is fixed in your mind. Sky looks like this. Sky feels like this. When you drop it, you will see sky is everywhere. Yourself is everywhere. Wherever you go, you are there. Then, where are you searching for you? Wherever you are, you can search for you. It does not matter. Provided you're searching in the now. You're searching in the present. Because that is where you truly are. Already you are one with the ultimate reality. Just that every time you try to connect with it, you hear a little more than what you're supposed to hear. You see a little more than what you're supposed to see. You feel a little more than what you're supposed to feel. You hear the rumbling. You see the moving of clouds. Once in a while, accidentally, you get a glimpse of this sky. It feels amazing and it's gone. To get to a place where you simply are is to return home. There is the story of the prodigal son returning in the Christian scriptures, which exactly describes this. in an allegorical form. If only it can be interpreted as an allegory and seen for its spiritual meaning, we can see that it's pointing in exactly the same direction. It is pointing inward. It is wanting you to come back home. But I have not heard a single Christian interpretation that turns this story inward. It's always remembered. It's a very famous story. It has been narrated for thousands of years. But if you were to ask anybody, what is the meaning of this? The interpretation is always literal. It's never symbolic. It's never spiritual. The story goes that a man had two sons. The younger son asked his father for his share of the estate, which the father granted. The younger son then traveled to a distant country where he squandered his wealth in wild living. Eventually, he found himself destitute in a time of famine and took a job feeding pigs, longing to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. Coming to his senses, he realized that even his father's hired servants had food to spare, and here he was starving to death. He decided to go back to his father and say, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants." So he set off towards his home. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father ordered his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son, who had been working in the fields, came near the house and heard music and dancing. He asked what was going on and was told about his brother's return. Angry and resentful for not receiving such a celebration, despite his loyalty, he refused to join in. His father came out and entreated him, but he replied, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him." His father said to him, "My son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." This is a beautiful allegorical representation of being lost and found, not as an individual, not as a person, but as a creature of existence. When you forget to see the actual treasures of life, aliveness, consciousness, beingness, and you start entangling yourself in unnecessary desires, you move away from home. And then somewhere realization sets in. When you start suffering, when you're in pain, when you're in confusion, you are reminded of that place that you know as home. You want to return back. And when you decide to return, existence rejoices. It sees you coming back. It celebrates your return. While the obedient son, who has always been simply following the orders, does not receive such a grand celebration, the one who is lost is loved and celebrated a lot more. That is the nature of life. That is the nature of existence. Because you've always been there, you have neither moved far away, nor you have tried to understand the nature of reality. You've been simply following the rules. You are an obedient son. But here, The fallen son has realized his folly and is coming back home. This is why it is said, the farther you go away from your true nature, more the possibilities of you returning back. It is only when you neither go too far nor stay at the source, you are somewhere revolving around the truth. It is much harder for you to inquire into the nature of reality because you have a sense of false comfort. Society is exactly one such place where you neither go far enough for you to drop the entire idea of being in the world and returning back to the source, nor you are close enough to the source to feel contented and joyful. Hence, you keep on going in circles. But once in a while, an individual pushes the boundaries of his own experiences. He wants to know life in its entirety. He does not care about just following the rules. He says, whatever life has to offer, let me experience it in its entirety. It does not matter if you squander all your wealth, if you try to experience as much of life as possible, but you're doing it in an extreme way. That extreme way of moving away eventually makes you realize how stupid you have been. It will give you at least an opportunity for you to turn inward. Yes, many might never turn around. Even if they want to turn around, they might not receive the right guidance. But here, there is a possibility. Because you have moved far away, because you are in a place where every moment is painful, that pain is described as not having any food to eat. And he's willing to work tending to the pigs so that he can eat their feed. That is his situation. It is just an allegorical way of saying when the pain is unbearable and when you can see that you yourself have created these conditions for you without understanding life or misunderstanding life, then there is a possibility. From there, you can ask the right questions. You can turn inward. Now, why are these stories a part of religious scriptures? Because the ultimate objective of religion is to guide you back home. Otherwise, what is the point? Why have religions existed for such a long time? So many things have changed, so many things have come and gone. Still, the same few religions, with a few scriptures, with a few beliefs, have survived the test of time. But they have not offered the solution to the individual. They have not liberated the individual. And yet they are still there. It just means they are in a dormant state. They are almost as good as dead. But for the one who can look for the signs of life, they are alive.